Wired, a lot of people go to sleep and wake up tired. Power of positivity and persistence. Say that I can, we'll just sit back and witness. Make an impact when our time is done. Make money, help people, and have lots of fun.
Whoa, that's right. Office Hours. It's episode 877 or so. As you know, we're not that good at math, and we started counting late in the game, but we know there's at least 877 of these episodes with 3 or 4 extraordinary guests and 1 or 2, sometimes even 3 co-hosts of mine. And today's co-host is the OG, my mentor, my coach, my teacher, and my friend. He's my big brother. It starts with the double B, Blaine Bartlett, blainebartlett.com, bringing possibility into reality. Blaine, thanks for joining me.
Hey, you bet, my friend. I'm looking forward to it, as always.
And probably out of Africa or some other indigenous area around the world, he is a powerful being. He is also a great friend of mine, the incredible Rhett Power. He is the king of Headamentals, headamentals.com. If you haven't bought your book, it's everywhere. It's right next to Don't Do Business with Dicks on your shelf. So get Headamentals and Don't Do Business with Dicks. Rhett Power, thanks for joining me.
Man, I gotta say one thing. It should not be on the shelf. You should be carrying those 2 books with you, all 3 of our books with you all the time, so you can constantly refer to them and learn from them, right?
Well, I finally learned how to advertise and market. After eight books, unfortunately for Blaine and I, but fortunately for me, Don't Do Business with Dicks. If you're carrying it around, people ask about it, where can I get it, and they buy it. Compassionate Capitalism did not, I carried that book forever, and nobody's like, hey, where'd you get that Compassionate Capitalism book? Even though I think Compassionate Capitalism is a better book than Don't Do Business with Dicks. That's because Blaine mostly wrote that one, and I wrote this one. But more importantly, we have so many great friends who join us, and I loaded up, as our team always does, these extraordinary people. And so we're going to bring on, with no further ado, Toni Ronayne. She is out of Canada, fractional CEO and founder at the C Society. Welcome to episode 877 or so of Office Hours.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. It's good to meet you guys.
Well, we are equally excited, if not more, and wanted to talk about the C Society. You launched it this year, and understanding how hospitality leadership is reforming and transcending its traditional organization. And you have a great collection of restaurant industry executives that have turned into these fractional leaders, which is all the phase today and most economical, as well as best for business development. Why did you decide to create a society of these types of leaders when you could have just created a business of fractional CEOs and C-level executives?
Yeah, well, so I actually spent the last few decades of my career working for companies, in the C-suite. And in late 2025, I found myself in a position where I wasn't really sure what I was going to do next. And I actually spent about 3 months just opening up my calendar on LinkedIn, talking to other fractional executives across the restaurant industry. And what I was hearing was a lot of uncertainty around what people wanted to do next. And at the same time, in our industry, we're seeing a lot of turnover at the C-suite level. So people coming in 12 months later, out of a job. And so that's really created this lack of confidence in kind of traditional models. And it's no joke. I mean, actually, fractional job titles have increased about 5,000% in the last 12 months on LinkedIn. So people started to take notice, and I took notice. And when I was connecting with these people and having these open conversations, I heard 2 things. One was, I really love doing fractional work. I believe that I can have an almost immediate impact working with more emerging brands, smaller concepts, but I feel a little bit lonely. And I'm used to working on a team, because these are former C-suite executives that have grown their careers in this industry. And the other thing that I heard was, I really love doing the work, but I hate trying to find the clients. I hate having to go out and hunt and do all of that. So that's why I formed the C Society. I saw that gap in between, great talent in organizations and a time where it's more critical than ever Margins are incredibly tight in our industry. Restaurants have been closing. We're still in this post-COVID reality. And what brands need more than ever is great leadership, but they can't afford to necessarily pay, six-figure salaries for CEOs. And the industry needs to get smarter. And so, this is where fractional work comes in. And I always like to say the C-suite isn't disappearing. It's being rebuilt for speed, precision, and outcomes. And that's what our leaders do.
Speed, precision, and outcome. It brings up an interesting question for me. At least it's an interesting question in my mind. Some of the most successful restaurants I've ever been around are organized around a specific concept. And those concepts can get dated over time. But I'd be interested in terms of a fractional CEO or anybody in the C-suite, a fractional C-suite coming in. How familiar do they need to be with the concept that the founder is actually organizing around, such that they can actually lead effectively? Because there's one thing about checking the box from a leadership perspective. I'm making sure I'm doing all of the right things, but if it doesn't match the concept ideation, then we've got a little bit of divergence that comes in. How do you ensure that doesn't happen?
Yeah. So with the C Society, all of the people that sit in these seats, they've all been C-suite executives for another brand. And we represent all of the top brands across the US and Canada. And the first thing that we always do is we walk in with a diagnostic. So we take the time to understand and diagnose exactly what's happening in the business. And we look at three things. So we're going to look at data, feedback, and observations. We're going to connect with the C-suite leaders there. We're going to be working hip on hip with founders. The difference between consultants and fractionals is that we really become part of the team. So we don't just walk in and say, here's what we think that you need to do. We actually lead and coach your teams in order to take that to execution. And I'll give you an example. So I'm working with a client right now. She's actually building a startup, and she came to me and said, I need a fractional CMO. And I spent a little bit of time working with her. And what I identified is that she didn't need a CMO yet. What she actually needed was a chief brand officer. She needed some creative support. We needed to build out the voice of the brand, the company, all of the foundational work first. And then 3 months from building that, then we'll introduce that CMO that's going to take that brand book and be able to market her business. So I would say, we lean on executives that are experienced. We have about 50 different fractionals right now across every vertical in the restaurant industry. These are proven operators. So you don't necessarily have to have worked with a brand previously as if you were just hiring a new hire. But the difference with a fractional executive is that they get up to speed much quicker. We go in laser focused. You get that fresh perspective, and then we work with your team to execute.
Well, go ahead. Blaine? Go ahead.
No, I'm fine. I was just thanking him for the answer.
He looks pensive, but he's.
So I love this idea, Toni. And one of the questions I have, we have a lot of people listening to this show that are, startups, and they're working their way through, and they're now hiring teams so they can scale. What's the benefit? I mean, what are some of the other benefits for those listening of a fractional C-suite executive? I mean, I could name a bunch of them, but I'd love for with your expertise to really share that with the audience, because I think that's actually really important here.
Well, I think first and foremost, you're going to benefit from the experience that these leaders have had. They've done it all. They've seen it all. Being able to hire an experienced strategic leader on your bench and on your team, which is often where the gaps live. As we go in and work with new founders or brands, there's a lack of strategy, not a lack of vision, but a lack of strategy around how do I clearly understand how I get from point A to point B and execute this vision. So you immediately get strategy, but then you also get execution, and you're not paying that full-time salary. So it's the most economical way to be able to do this. When I talk about precision, it's because we can come right in at the right place at the right time. And then, like I said, whether that's a 3-month assignment, a 6-month, or, an ongoing kind of retainer support system, you have the options and the flexibility with the people that you're working with. You're not paying benefits for these people. You're not going through lengthy interviews. You come to us, we work with you, we match you with the right talent, present you applicants and candidates that can really meet your needs. And then you also have the benefit of this larger collective where people can actually tap in and tap out. One of the other ways that we support new businesses is we do founder coaching. You have the ability to tap into your own advisory board through the C-suite that we have. So there's lots of different ways that we're able to support getting something off the ground. And I find that when businesses are starting out, they might say, well, I think I need a bookkeeper. I think might need a controller. But what they really need is a fractional CFO. Especially those that are trying to play big. They've got big vision. You need people strategically sitting there to challenge your thinking, to be able to offer advice, and from experts that have done it before.
Yeah, thank you.
She is helping not only companies find the most efficient, effective way of gaining leadership knowledge, and we didn't get into the business development side of all the relationship capital as I've utilized so many fractional C-level executives, specifically beyond the situational knowledge. They have so many great connections, and they've also seen many companies, so they're leveraging other types of systems, especially when technology is moving so quickly and impacting the entire C-suite. There's so many valuable things that have access to the C Society. If you're interested in fractional C-level executives, reach out to our friend Toni Ronayne. She is at joincsociety.com. That makes sense. joincsociety.com. Toni Ronayne, thanks for joining us. We look forward to doing business with you.
It was great to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the pool.
Enjoy.
I will.
Right on. All right, we're 1 for 1, and now we'll bring another wonderful guest on. It is Anita Davidson is here, CEO at Creative BioTherapeutics. Anita, welcome to episode 877 or so of Office Hours.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's very exciting, and I love hearing your questions. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Well, we love getting answers to those questions, and hopefully we're remain in the status of more interested than interesting. And you've been quite successful over 3 decades, dedicated to improving probably the greatest need in our country, which is patient care and access to care. And we will find with the silver tsunami this to be even a greater need over the next 2 decades as well. And you being a healthcare leader and entrepreneur for over 3 decades, helping to find what is most essential, more funding and support for our future and the healers of the future, which is our startups. I always say it's the entrepreneurs. I'm the Chief Chancellor of Junior Achievement University. Blaine's a chancellor as well. And we both agree that entrepreneurs are going to save the world. We just need to make sure we're sustaining enough time for them to figure it out, but also giving them enough time to get funded. What are some of the things that you're doing today? I'm hoping, especially for women and women of color who are the least funded of these startups, where are you finding that the help where others cannot?
Yeah, it's been quite the journey, because in my earlier business adventures in healthcare, it was I could set out a plan, set up the business, and I was revenue producing. When we transitioned in, my husband and I co-founded Creative BioTherapeutics to do cancer research, it became a whole different animal. And so we traditionally started with doing pitch events and trying to get a hold of angel investors, and we did well with local investors. But what we've found more recently is the best way is that relationship building. And that's one thing with being years in healthcare. That's one thing that I feel like I excel at, and taking every opportunity of meeting someone, sharing what's going on with your vision and your mission, and seeing if they have additional handshakes that they can bring forward. And we've had some really interesting connections that we wouldn't have had through the traditional pathways, because there's so many opportunities out there to do pay to play to get the funding, and you can waste, and I have wasted, in retrospect, money that really didn't go anywhere because you couldn't actually have a relationship, or you couldn't develop a relationship with an individual. You're talking to a screen in the time of Zoom. So we've been the most successful with talking with people, connecting with them on a human level and related to where their history has been with cancer. And it used to be, 20, 30 years ago, 1 out of 3 people would be impacted by cancer. And now it's 1 out of 2. And so everybody has their own cancer story. And me transitioning from direct patient care to leading a biotech, the need for cancer, a novel cancer therapy is just greater all the time. It just keeps growing instead of receding. So it really is the relationship building and every opportunity that you get. And we've met some amazing people. We're still looking for the one big investor that can actually come forward and help us get into clinical trials. But we feel we're much closer right now. And as a woman, it is a little more of a challenge, I think, because most funding goes to men and men run companies. But I'm out here to change that. That's part of my goal.
Yeah,
is
it's
to
about
bring women forward.
98% of the money goes to men.
Yeah.
And, but if you like the color green, I'd invest in women because they make more green than anyone. Blaine Bartlett, you've been a supporter of startups and especially women and women of color, as alongside with me with Meltzer Funding, meltzerfunding.com, blainebartlett.com. Tell me, what are you thinking?
Well, the idea of a relationship, from an investing perspective, that relational dynamic, I've invested in a couple of, well, as David was alluding to. And one of the things that I've learned about formal investors is that they continue to look at the ROI and the quick return. Mm-hmm. And their agenda typically is got a much shorter time span to it than what the company has, and they're also looking for an outcome that is usually different than what the founder and the leadership team is working with. How do you curate an effective relational dynamic that mitigates that potential road or not problem? Actually, it's that potential problem.
Yeah, it is a big problem. And I'll have to say that we have walked away from opportunities because the vision and the mission didn't line up. If someone is just looking for a quick, when are you going to sell? When are you going to be able to turn it over? Then that doesn't really fit with what we're trying to do, because we're really trying to get our therapy to the market where patients need it. Mm-hmm. Because too often, if you sell it off fast, it gets shelved, because there's a competitive agenda out there, and we refuse to let our therapy die on the vine. And my husband's years in pharma, he saw too many therapies that were purchased and then ended up shelved, and we refuse to do that. So even though we've made relationships with groups, and then they were pushing on that quick exit, that quick monetization, it's like, we can give you an excellent return on investment. I mean, we've got the numbers in terms of our market, but it's not going to happen in 6 months or a year. And we're not just going to undercut the potential value for patients in the future. And that's where we have to be very selective with making those relationship opportunities, whether they are cut short or whether we continue over time to keep developing them. But you're right, there are those that are really quick. And what we found, what was interesting, is there are a lot of angel groups that were more focused on the quick ROI and the quick exit than actually the VCs. And when I came into the fundraising, I thought it was the reverse. So we didn't really approach any VCs or more professional investors early on. But then we kept hitting the wall with the angels. It's like, well, what's my $10,000 going to get me? And I'm like, wait a minute here. This is drug development. So it's not as long. We're committed, though, too, for the ROI is to get to that market and get to those patients on a more streamlined budget as well as a streamlined timeline. And that's where we're different than the typical, 100 people, $100 billion, $100 million and 10 years to do it. We're really looking at, once we can get this next round of funding, we're going to get there faster. So that's the potential for ROI for those people that have a vision at the VC level. They're more interested and they continue a conversation over time. So it really is picking and choosing who you think will work well with your mission and vision, and not just picking the first dollar. I mean, we've had to walk away, and it's painful, but if they're going to kill our company, we can't let that happen, because then patients suffer. And that's really, for us, that's the bottom line. So every day we come to work, it's about the patient.
Well, you answered part of my question, Anita, but I want to ask it anyway, because I think you probably have some more pearls of wisdom in there. For people who listen to this show and watch this show, they may have an idea, they may have a deck out there, they may be pitching their idea and trying to raise money. I want you to give them some positive things to take away from this conversation. What would you say to somebody, a female entrepreneur that's listening to this and says, yeah, I'm just hitting a wall every time I'm out there talking about this? What would you say to them? And
Yeah.
is it, what's your wisdom there? What's your pitch to them?
I think one of the biggest learning points is that you've got to let your passion for whatever business you're developing come through. Because if you get stuck behind the deck, as it's the technical pieces of talking through the deck and not letting why you decided to start this business come through and why you're passionate about it. And I think that's where women have a unique opportunity, because we will allow our passion to come through. And I think that passion can help drive interest, because people that are looking at decks are looking at 100 decks at a time. So you can have, you want to have something that really shows what is going to be your value add, but let that come through and talk to people and work on your connection people to people, and not just, I've got to get through my slides. I've got to make sure that I get to the ROI. And that's where early on, that's what I was focused on. And it didn't feel to connect as well. And we didn't get as many handshakes. But once I just really started talking about value add, and this is where we're different and making a difference, I think that's what I would really let it come through. Don't let it hold you back as a negative, because early on, as you can tell, my passion will come through. I'll get emotional about it. And early on, I tried to really temper that. But I think that was a negative. I think I potentially lost some opportunities, because that, I think, is something that is very, very real. And I think in this pitching business, there's so much that's not real. So many claims that are, essentially bogus, or that, big claims of ROI beyond what really could be done. And it's that realness. And that's where I think people want to invest. And that's why our early investors, our local investors, have reinvested with us and are right there if we need anything to vet other people and other investors. So that relationship, we look long-term for that, but let your passion and leave it out there. And if somebody doesn't like your passion, well, go to the next person, just keep going. Don't stop.
I agree. Got to be yourself and not what other people think. Anita Davidson, helping so many people, CEO at Creative BioTherapeutics, building a bigger community of people that want to help each other and know people to help each other with our greatest need in this country, utilizing and improving patient care and access. Thank you so much, Anita. Promise us that you'll come back.
I'd love to. I could talk about this stuff all day. So thank you.
We got plenty of shows. We'll have you back, and my boys have shows as well. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you.
Good stuff.
All right. Our cleanup hitter has a high bar. He is waiting in the wings. The BJD, Bradley James Davies, is here. Speaks up for listening and easy to learn superpower that he believes can change lives and the world. Aligned with my favorite saying, which is be more interested than interesting. Let's welcome to Office Hours episode 877, an author of Next Level Listening, Bradley James Davies. Welcome to Office Hours.
Hey, fellas. Happy to be here. Grateful to be here.
Well, grateful to have you. Well, it's cliche to say God has given us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I always say there's a reason things become cliche. It's because they're so true and repeated so often that we should actually pay attention to them. But yet so many of us don't learn how to listen. We're either interrupters or what I call waiters. We're just pretending to listen and waiting to tell you what we think. Active listening is a difficult thing. but you make it easy to learn. What are some of the ways you take this simple thing to do and make it simple not to do, and allow people to know it's easy to learn?
Well, I think we all know that the first step to solving a problem is admitting and embracing the fact that you have one. And that's one of my fundamental challenges in speaking up for listening, is that most of humanity thinks they're pretty good at listening. And that's because we're actually pretty good hearers. We're wired to hear well. They're a safety feature for us, but we're not wired to listen well. And I actually call it the listening lie. It's a lie we tell ourselves. We think we're good at listening when in reality, we're not. And David, I've listened to a whole bunch of your stuff, so I know you're suspicious of statistics, but I'll offer this survey to you.
Well, you know my favorite statistic?
What is it?
You know my favorite
Tell me
statistic?
again. Tell us.
99% of all statistics are made up.
Sounds good. Well, let's pretend I'm either the 99% or the 1%, but I think you're going to like this statistic because it supports what we know to be lived truth. They did a big survey of Fortune 500 employees, a big wellness survey where they asked a multitude of questions, and 2 were about listening. The first listening question asked these employees to rate themselves in terms of their listening skills. And 74.8% rated themselves as average to above average listeners. So about 75% thought they were pretty darn good. Well, the next question, they were asked to rate their colleagues' ability to listen. So any guess what percentage of those respondents rated their colleagues as average to above average listeners?
About
25%. 25%.
What did you say, Rhett?
25%.
Okay. Blaine, what about you?
About 20%.
David, for the win?
I'll go 10.
Yep. It was 12.1%. 12.1%. So even if we're suspicious of the statistics, like David, you wisely are, if we multiply that by 2, let's say 25% of employees don't feel as though they're listened to well by their colleagues, or partners don't feel they're listened to well by their husband or wives, or children don't feel they're listened to by their parents. And I believe we have a listening epidemic on our hands. And you guys are all professional listeners, like I am. So you know that there are a lot of tips, tricks, strategies, and best practices that you can easily implement into your life that levels up your listening in really immense ways.
I love this topic. I mean, communication is always, just the way that Virginia Satir, it's the ways we work out common meaning with one another. And I would assume that you're probably familiar with the NLP technologies and Grinder and Bandler's work. David Bohm, Virginia Satir, Milton Erickson were used as kind of exemplars when they actually wrote the book The Structure of Magic. And a lot of that is predicated on being able to listen, not just hearing the words that are spoken, but the subtle things that come through that don't have linguistic markers attached to them, but they are incredibly infused with meaning. So in your work, James, particularly, I want to kind of look at your new book here, Next Level Listening. How are you bringing into the conversation a focus on listening beyond the words so that people can actually develop a greater expertise in that domain?
So one of the things I highlight is that the primary enemy of our ability to listen well is our brains and our buttons. And particularly at the heart of both of those is our amygdala. That amygdala is our prehistoric ride or die who is asking itself multiple times a second, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? So if we can get to a place where we feel safe and centered, then we can be truly present with the person and listen beyond the words to really pick up on all the meaning there. And I advocate for the 3-legged stool of listening, which is listening with our eyes, our ears, and our emotions. And if you can put into play all 3, I joke around and say, enough with the eye contact. If you're just laser focused, in North America, we're so fixated on eye contact. But if I'm laser focused on David's eyes, I'm missing out on a lot of the 47 muscles we have going on in our face and body language, leaning forward, leaning back, and also tone of voice as well. And then we put what we gather through our eyes and our ears through this filter of our emotions. And that's when we get to move past just the mere words to the actual meaning behind the words. Tone matters, for example. I like to joke that a text that says sure can have lots of different meanings, but we can't hear it said. But in a listening context, to your question, Blaine, we can listen past just the word sure, sure, sure. Those are three very different things. But it starts with having a sense of safety and security in self and in the relationship. Safety off, communication off, bottom line.
Well, Bradley, you are so well timed here. I'm going to be a little selfish. So I have a coaching client right now that I have to get to slow down, right? Because he is spinning, and that means his team is spinning, and he can't slow down to hear what they have to say. What's your, and I'm sure as a coach you've seen this, what's your advice? Help me out here. Give me some tools here to help him stop the spin and slow down and start listening some more, because that's his problem, actually.
Well, of course, you and I would want to explore what buttons are being pushed in him that makes him feel as though he needs to spin and speak up, right? There's deeper work there going on.
Sure.
But in terms of the book, what I offer to leaders is, if you feel as though that amygdala is being triggered, first name it to tame it.
Okay.
And then second, can you have the power of the pause? And we know the Frankl quote there, that's where the ownership really rests in terms of our own autonomy to make our own choices, to choose our choices. So first name it to tame it. Then can you claim a pause? That's a gigantic win in and of itself. And then if we can claim a pause and you still want to raise a riot, if you're still ready to rock and roll, then can you start to implement some breathing? And I think box breathing is talk about a return on investment, 16 seconds in, across, down, and around, to regulate that amygdala. So on an individual level, those are 3 strategies I offer in the book and to my clients. On a macro level to leaders, I have 2 encouragements. The first is 3 then me. We taught this in kindergarten to our little kindergartners. They sit in morning circle in the morning, and we say, hey, we're going to let 3 friends share what their favorite color is before we talk more about purple. So at the leadership table, if you can have the discipline to let 3 others speak before you interject again, it's a wonderful standard to seek to honor. And then ultimately, if you're the leader at the table, can you have the discipline to speak last? I like to borrow on what the Marines have used well, and Simon Sinek popularized with leaders eat last. Leaders eat last, and leaders also speak last. Let the great ideas come out. Your job isn't to be the font of all good ideas. Your job is to cultivate a context, a culture where those best ideas are brought forth.
Well, I'm sending him the book then.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Sounds good, Rhett.
Next level listening, and he is a professional listener and an intelligent follower. You must be more interested than interesting to be an active listener. If you do recognize the BJD, Bradley James Davies, that's because he's a famous driver of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile as well. So big fan, by the way.
I peaked way too early, David. I peaked way too early.
I get it, man. It's a bucket list. It's a bucket list of mine to drive the Wienermobile. I have a wiener dog. I need a Wienermobile, and I am a self-proclaimed wiener. Anyways, we all are wieners here on Office Hours. Bradley James Davies, please promise us you'll come back. We got many other shows. The world needs more people to create greater leaders through active listening. A graduate of Stanford and Duke, we admire both of those places and get to speak there often. Thanks, Bradley. We'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, fellas. Really grateful to be with you.
Great job. That's right. I'm an Oscar Mayer wiener. All right. We're the wieners of the day. What's the takeaway wiener of the day? Let's start age before beauty. Blaine Bartlett.
I thought we're going to go younger than older.
Well, we can go to Rhett then. He's a baby. He's the baby of the bunch. I got
He's a kid.
You know, from a marketing standpoint, David, when you just started singing the Wiener song, I thought about don't do business with dicks on one of those Wiener mobiles kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, we'll wrap the Wienermobile with don't do business with dicks. Perfect. Exactly.
That's my takeaway, man. That's my takeaway.
I like it. Don't do business with dicks. A great takeaway. Blaine Bartlett, what do you got for me?
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's hard to follow.
Yeah.
It's 2:00 in the morning. You know, your mind goes in these places.
I am so grateful that you stayed up till 2 a.m. I would wake up at 2 a.m. to do it, but I wouldn't stay up till 2 a.m. That's my style.
You're right.
Well, we'll put you to bed here. My takeaway, I'm going to just put a pin in relationships. I mean, everything fundamentally for me comes back down to the quality of the relationships. You got good relationships, whether it's with a vendor or whether it's a client that you're working with and you're listening well, or if you've got a fractional CEO coming in, you need to bring a relational dynamic into play. If the relationships are working pretty good, you got a pretty good shot of being successful in life. So yeah, that's kind of the takeaway is, pay attention to the quality of your relationships.
I love that. Mine's just situational knowledge. All three of our guests bring so much situational knowledge. And today there's a lot of young talent with young capability of technology, but I don't want to lose track, especially with our community, of how valuable the dummy tax is, how valuable situational knowledge is. And if you talk to Blaine Bartlett, especially, the wealth of situational knowledge and how many different sources that he's been exposed to and experienced utilizing those ideas. These cliches weren't even cliches when he was my age. And now through time and situational knowledge, they've become cliches. So situational knowledge should not be discounted. And please make sure we prioritize those who have experience beyond the technology that exists today. Gentlemen, as always, Rep Power, get to bed. We'll see you when you come back to America. We miss you. Check out headamentals.com and put that double, triple purchase on Amazon. Don't do business with dicks with Headamentals and moving possibilities into reality. Compassionate pattern. There you go. How leaders can crack negative self-talk with Headamentals. All right, there we go. And Blaine, thank you again. Best to you and everyone around you who I love. BlaineBartlett.com. If you want to be where you think you want to be, get the best mentor, coach, teacher that I know. He's mine. B. Bartlett at avatar/resources.com. He has a great mastermind to join as well. Blaine, thank you. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care. Thanks, Rhett. Have a good dive tomorrow.
Come back home, Rhett. Rhett, come back home. We miss your power. All right. If you want to get a hold of me, it's david@dmeltzer.com. David means beloved. @D is my first initial. Meltzer means servant. David@dmeltzer.com. Let me be your beloved servant. I'll send you my book, my guides, my exercises. I'll sign them, send them, pay for shipping and the book for free. David@dmeltzer.com. And if you want to join our community, here's the cities we're going to be in. We'll be in New Orleans for Jazz Fest. Come to our meetup in Holding Court. VIP dinners for charity. Las Vegas, Nevada. Season 10 of office hours, finishing up in the lobby of the Wynn. And then back to SoFi in Los Angeles 3 different times. We got LA Masterminds with Tim Story. So many different other people. Come and see us in LA. Madison, Wisconsin, meet up Holding Court. The Bahamas at the Atlantis Hotel. Speeches, interviews, Holding Court. VIP dinner for charities. Atlanta with Jesse Itzler and myself. Back to Las Vegas for season 11 of Office Hours. And then the Meltzer Aspire Business Tour. That's right. Austin, Texas. Come and join us. We're co-branding it with my name now. How about that? Come and join us in Austin, Texas. If you want to do so, I'm going to create a jingle. If you want to send me one, I'm looking for like a 1-800 Car for Kids jingle for my text community. Over 200 cities. Stay informed. Stay invited. 949-298-290. Nope, that's not working. Area code 949-298-2905. I wish I was an Oscar Mayer Wiener. 949-298-2905. Nope, not working either. But if you want to join the community, please do so. Be informed and invited. Remember, most importantly, especially as Bradley has taught us today, be more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Hit it, Gigi.
Now I'm at the point you want to be with me. I'm vibing out at a higher frequency, cause everything that I want and I'm gonna be, it's when I wake up, that's when I start to dream. Someone you love is talking down, here is the plan. Let it fall through like a handful of sand. Nothing happens overnight, what you must understand. If you dwell on the bad, then you don't stand a chance. Something you want upset, saying why it ain't mine yet. That's because now you have yet to change your mindset. People don't put their mind to rest while they're so wired. A lot of people go to sleep and wake up tired. Power of positivity and persistence. Say that I can, we'll just sit back and witness. Make an impact when our time is done. Make money, help people, and have lots of fun.